Yes, welcome after the hype with your host, Bryan Dressel. With me as always, Jonathan Hardesty, Emily Blake, and Chewie Darsow.
Hi.
Woo!
You did it.
I did it
without slurring.
Super speed, and I didn't stutter. I feel pretty good about it.
What are you, the Flash?
He's been singing
I
along
wish.
to Weird Al's cover of Hamilton
I
a lot,
have a lot.
he's gotten the
Yeah.
Also, you've gotten to practice. Gotten better.
Yeah.
Since you breezed over it, how will people know whose voice belongs to which person?
That was Emily Blake. The other one was Chewie. And
other
John's
one.
always here.
For better or worse.
Although I will say I'm pretty excited. This has nothing to do with what we were just talking about, but what you just listened to before we started talking is our new theme music. That was really great, wasn't it? Everyone, that you
was
definitely
so
heard it.
cool.
Yeah, we're really excited about all that music that we definitely listen to here as well.
I love it.
But it came from our friend Bradley Parsons. He does the music for Venture Bros. He also does the music for upcoming Samwise, and now he does music for After the Hype.
That's pretty
so
slick.
thank you, Bradley, and your work is always entertaining.
Baller.
If you want to have that work done for your show, check him out on Fiverr. Bradley Parsons, one word. And that's my plug.
Did we have theme music before?
We did, and I really enjoyed it, and it worked for a time, but I just wanted to try some new stuff.
Okay.
As with all things, time changes.
Yeah,
You know?
it felt like it was time for a change, and I really liked what he did for both Samwise and for Venture Bros, and I decided, you know what? Let's just bring him over to the
Cool beans.
other show. I was going to say the best show, but
Let's get him to do everything.
yeah, everything.
The
You know how to do
first.
video editing, right, Bradley? Good luck, fucker.
You just imitate all our voices and do the show for us.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
Good.
Hi, I'm Jonathan.
Yeah, it's going to go great.
Yeah.
So special guest this week, we have coming on Miss Riley Silverman.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm great. When we said that we were going to do a battle episode, Emily immediately messaged me, do we have somebody for the battle yet? I have somebody who'll be perfect. And it's like, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, did they cancel?
I've been trying to find a way to bring you onto this podcast, but it was always like movies that I didn't feel like would be up your alley. But I was like, this way you can choose one.
Okay.
We do a lot.
I want to know what movies you've judged not being up my alley.
We
at this
do a
point.
lot of like super. You always like when you did the 10 movies that you like best. It was always stuff like Clueless and things like that. So we do like we do
We've
mostly.
done Clueless.
We have not since I've been on the
Oh,
pod.
okay, yeah.
I made
No,
Ryan
we-
But
do-
that was
We stopped Clueless when
that
Emily
wasn't
joined.
10 movies that I liked best. That was 10 movies that had an impact
Yeah, I
on
guess
me.
that's true.
So like if
So I think
if
when I
you're
think
if
of
you're
you,
a
I think-
closeted trans girl in the mid 90s and Clueless comes out, like that is your like you're like this is the world that I could have lived in. Like that's like what that was. Like
They had
yeah.
the weirdest Clueless reference in, was it the latest episode of Venture Brothers?
Yeah.
They had a makeover montage, and for some reason at the end of it, they all come dressed out as Clueless when they're done shopping in the mall.
Oh, interesting.
I'm just like, what?
Well, because Clueless had that makeover montage with Ty. That's what it
Yeah.
all is. It actually makes a lot of sense. Like
For them ending it makes sense, but the random Clueless poll in this episode of Venture Bros, it's like, that's why I like Venture Bros.
I am for it.
So do we want to
Clueless
really...
is a weird movie because if you watch it now, it holds up very well, and it actually somehow it was so self-parodying of the 90s at the time that when you watch it now, it feels like somebody made a movie now that was like a nostalgic mock of the 90s. Like
I
I
could
could
see
feel like
that
the
for
Wedding
sure.
Singer is to the 80s. Like Clueless
Yeah.
feels like that to the mid 90s.
I could totally see that. It's
Yeah.
just that everyone should be a little bit older, but whatever. All right, hey, look, we both did it at the same time. Perfect.
Yeah. Physical comedy on a podcast.
Hey.
Just in case people don't stick around to the very end and you actually have timely plugs, Riley, do you have anything you'd like to plug up in front?
I do. I have timely plugs. A big one, the first one that's very timely is because when this drops, if you are in the Portland area this weekend, I am actually performing at the All Jane Comedy Festival, which is at the Curious Comedy Theater. And the best thing about it, reason why I'm bringing it up, I'm very excited about this, I conned them into letting me do a live D&D game at the festival.
Oh, awesome.
And
Whoa.
that is on
Nice.
Sunday, September 30th at 2 p.m. at Curious Comedy Theater. And those tickets are at alljanecomedy.com or alljanecomedy.org, whatever. Look for All Jane Comedy on Google. You'll find it. But yeah, it's All Jane Some Dice at 2 p.m. at the Curious Comedy Theater. And the other one is that I have a comedy special out right now on Seed and Spark. It was their first original production, and it's me and it's like 6 comics total, and we're all doing like a short set, and it's called Everything Is Fine. And it's on Seed and Spark, which is like it's a crowdsourcing site for filmmakers, but they are starting to get into like doing independent films and productions of their own, and they have like a streaming service that's like $2 a month, and you can watch, and there's a special on there. So
You said it's really fast. It's Seed and Spark?
Seed and Spark.
Seed and Spark.
Yeah,
Okay.
like seed money to
Got
spark
it.
an idea. So,
Got it.
Yeah, it's a cool site. Like their whole thing is it's not unlike Kickstarter, but they're specifically focused on independent filmmaking.
They're a lot more hands-on with the people making the campaigns in there.
Yeah, like
that's
you,
cool.
you can get set up, instead of it just being like, oh, I'm donating money, it can also be like, oh, I'm donating equipment, or I'm donating a place you can shoot at and stuff like that.
The original idea for it was to structure like a wedding registry.
Yeah.
So instead, so you can
that's
go
kinda
in
cool.
and tell someone you want specifically to pay for their stunt coordinator.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can like set up like if you want. I think I don't know if they still do it this way, but I know that I donated money to one time where like I donated money specifically to their like location fund or whatever. Whereas like I think maybe now it might still just be a big bulk. I don't know, but
Well, that's
yeah.
cool.
But
I
they
think
also
that's a good
they
idea.
have resources, and they have like they have their own streaming thing. So if you make a short film and like, well, we're gonna put it besides just throwing it on YouTube, well, I'll put it on this site so it can actually generate revenue because it gets like
They're very invested in their filmmakers, and they want to see them succeed, which is different from everywhere else.
Yeah.
And
also-
I don't joke when I say that.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Seed
Well,
and Spark podcast.
And I don't really. Well, I will say one more thing. I also like the way it's structured because you know your money. Like on Kickstarter, you just pick a number, and then so much of the time, then you see the same person come back later and be like, well, "We need money for post now." And it's like on Seed and Spark, since you have to like dictate what money goes where, you're planning ahead.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I need X money for post, and I know that now, instead of running through all my money and then going, "Oops."
Oh, they need something like that for video games, so video gamers stop fucking over the Kickstarter community.
They tried doing that with Fig, but I don't think it took off.
Yeah. All right, let's do a where have you been doing? I can go first. I read Batman Damned because that one's a little bit more timely than the one that I just
Is
deleted.
that the one with the Batwing?
It is the one with the Batwing.
Which I was very excited about when he showed me.
That is now the official name of it, the Batwang.
Yeah.
So Batman and the Batwing with the Batwang.
Yeah. I will say he's rather well hung. Go Batman.
Like a bat.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
he's
he needs more going for him.
right. Yeah.
No wonder he's angry. That gravity is really pulling at him.
Yeah, it's he doesn't really have balls though. I thought that was kind of shocking. It's just a lot of wang and
How like Batman.
yeah, right.
He's just a dick without balls.
But enough about his penis. I will say this. I was telling John this before I recorded because we were kind of talking about it.
We do talk sometimes.
Like it's motivated. It's not just like, hey, let's have Batman's dick in this for the hell of it. Like it makes sense if you read the book. It's not just gratuitous nudity. Like it is gratuitous.
it's an artistic dick choice.
Yes, it is artistic dick choice. That
Swell.
works, right? But the book itself is actually really, really good. It picks up somewhat after Batman has gone, I just got stabbed a whole bunch of times and I'm falling in a river and I don't know why I'm here. And John Constantine and Zatanna are trying to say, like, you need help because according to the news and that guy over there, you viciously murdered the Joker last night. And he's like, I don't remember any of that. And like, well, you did though. And it's a 3-issue run by the guy, like some of the best writers in comics, Brian Cavanaugh, and I don't remember his other name. Because I'm terrible. I'll put it in later. No, not in Brian Cavanaugh. It's Brian Azzarello. Jesus, I'm bad today. But it's really, really good. Very, very, very beautiful art. And it just works. Like I cannot recommend picking this up enough, and especially if you can still find it in its actual size. Because they're doing prestige size for the first run, where it's like magazine size, which means you can't bag and board it.
You get a little annoyed by that at first.
Yeah, it gets a little annoying, but it works. Like the whole book is just beautiful, and I cannot recommend it enough. And if you've ever enjoyed comics, or even not, because you don't really need to know anything going into this one, this is the book to read right now. So good. That's it for me, though.
My where had I been doing is recently I decided to put on the Golden Compass movie, which I never actually saw. I didn't see it in theaters because everyone said it was atrocious. And then when I watched it, I was just kind of like, wow, they're shoving so much in so fast, and all the like detail and subtlety and character motivations and interactions are just being blown over. And I was just like, you know what? I just need to reread the book because this is it ended up just kind of being empty. Like all the spirit and love of the book, it's just they didn't take the time to put it into the movie, which I would imagine is exactly why it failed.
I mean, but that was a lot of those movies back in like the 2000s.
We need a Harry Potter franchise.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we need our next Harry
I'm
Potter.
looking forward to that HBO series about it, though.
I
It's
hope
gonna be
it's good.
I think it'll be good. I hope so.
Like really like explain everything and make it why all this stuff is important.
Yeah,
I'd be
I
curious to watch that the remake happening as well as the Avatar one coming, just to see how
That's
they
on
took two
Netflix,
things that
right?
had not great movies, retranslated again.
And Watchmen. Although I enjoy the Watchmen movie, but it'll be interesting to see what the fuck.
Well, it's
David
easier to
Lynch
make
does.
it's easier to make a case for the quality of Watchmen versus Avatar, the Last Airbender,
Yeah,
and
sure.
Golden Compass.
Speaking of Wangs, Watchmen was a movie where I really didn't need to see that Wang.
The Blue Wang?
Really didn't.
I
need it.
enjoyed that just because I like to think about people who have to animate penises while going back and
They did
forth.
a bad job. That thing defies gravity.
Someone had to stare at that and be like, "Is this accurate?"
But he's on another planet without gravity, right?
No, he's
No,
on
he's on
Earth,
Earth
and
a
it's just
lot.
floating
Oh,
around
the-
instead of flopping. Penises flop, damn it.
He's
I mean,
magic.
but his gravity.
They'll all
might be
float
different.
too.
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, that's-
And he did have balls, by the way.
And he had balls, unlike
Unlike
Batman.
Batman.
Yeah.
He had the balls to see things through. Oh.
He did.
Anything else about Golden Compass? Any polar bear balls?
No polar bear balls. They definitely did not animate those.
They blurred him out.
The young
Bullshit.
actress I actually thought was pretty good and could have been fantastic. They, gotten the character better. It's one of those where they had to have just thrown it together going, we need to get the Harry Potter crowd as fast as we can. And it's just, you don't make a good movie when you're chasing somebody else's tail.
It was one of those movies that was not unlike Dark Tower, where it was like getting developed so much that it kept getting tweaked and tweaked and tweaked until it got ruined. And they're like, well, we
Yeah.
already have the investment in this IP, so we're going to go ahead and throw it out there.
Yeah.
But because I've read a couple of Wikipedia articles about like what the process was like of getting it made and what the ending used to be and how it got changed and how they like couldn't figure out where to end the story for the movie version versus the book version and stuff like that.
Yeah. I never even finished it. We had to go do something and then I didn't have the motivation to pick it back up.
Yeah. I watched part of it while you were like in the bathroom or something, and I went, hard pass.
Yeah. It doesn't even end where the first book ends. Like they actually cut out like all the sad stuff at the end of the book because they like thought it was a bad way to end the movie. So
Yeah.
Strong choices.
yeah.
I highly recommend
Brave
the book.
choices.
Highly recommend the book series. His Dark Materials is amazing. Just don't watch the movie. Maybe the miniseries when it comes out.
Emily, what about you?
God, I watched this so much this week, but I'm going to talk about BoJack Horseman, season, I think, 5?
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate what they've done with BoJack Horseman because it's a show that you think is just going to be this absurd comedy of ridiculousness, and it actually is about a lot of shit. And they always talk about addiction, and they go there again this season. But one of the things I thought was super cool that they started last season and have really expanded this season is that Todd is asexual. And that's something you like never see represented ever. I mean, this is the first time I can ever remember seeing an asexual like relationship explored on TV. And for those of you who don't know, asexual is someone who just doesn't really have a sexual desire. They can be romantic, they have relationships, sex doesn't interest them. And sometimes they have sex, but not always. So they explored that, and Todd, got in a relationship with a girl who was also asexual. And what I loved was there was a period where they realized that they really weren't a good couple. And he was just like, I don't think we're really should be a couple. I think we're just together because we're both asexual. And she's like, yeah, do you know how hard it is to find another asexual person who wants to date? And they were talking about the need for an app, which there really is, because I have a couple asexual friends who are like, it's so hard to find someone. Everyone wants to fuck all the time. But I appreciated that, and I thought this season was pretty strong. Yeah.
I'll have to watch it. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Every time I watch it with you, I tend to get kind of sad.
Yeah, it's a bummer of a show.
Oh, it looks like it's gonna be a fun show. And parts of it are fun, and then you'll be like, oh.
A bummer, you say? That sounds wonderful.
They did a good job in the first season of like spoon feeding you the pathos. Like it started out being very like just like satirical Hollywood thing, and then like I think like 6-7 episodes in, you're like, oh, that was a really heavy episode, and then like the show just like has kind of like kept building on that vibe, which is great.
Cool. When they throw their punches, they connect. John, what about you?
So I haven't been watching a lot of new stuff lately, but I've been listening to music on my commute, and I started listening to music. Yeah.
Music.
So I started listening to this.
Nicki Minaj Queen, because it's fucking awesome.
It is.
Yeah. I've been listening to this band that I've heard of. I've heard of these. For a while, and I haven't really given it a chance. But it's a band you might have heard of it, called Nightwish.
Oh God.
You started watching Nightwish?
Oh no! You've turned Chewie
Yes!
Yeah. And I started with Decades was the first one that came up.
Yeah, why not?
And so I've been listening through that, and it's definitely been a journey in that album of just music I like now, like the version of that type of music I like now versus parts of it that I liked in high school. So it was like, oh, I remember. Oh, cool. Oh, it had something kind of for
Do you
all my
close
ages.
your eyes and imagine yourself floating on a dragon and fighting demons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that a yes answer?
Because it's Nightwish.
Yeah. So yeah, no,
Or being stuck
it's
in a crazy
your hype is
carnival.
accurate.
Oh my god.
There's no letdown.
I'm still sad I was too pregnant to go to their concert.
You've seen them live. I was there.
Only once. It's not enough.
I still remember you. I think you posted on Facebook about how sad you were.
Yes, because when you're 8 months pregnant, nothing's comfortable, and you can't go to a concert.
Stupid babies.
Yeah, that sucked. I was so upset we couldn't go to Nightwish. Damn.
Not everything crosses over in a marriage.
Interesting.
So.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. So I enjoyed it.
Your wish was to see
They'll come back. They come back.
Yep.
They always come back.
Yeah.
And now you have somebody to go to the show with.
Yeah.
You and John. Have a good time.
And Sam. Sam.
And
likes
Sam.
that.
Yeah, that's great. All of you will have a great time.
Yeah.
And we'll save a little money
can
by
stay
not
home
having
with
to
the
pay for
baby.
it. Yeah, awesome. So much better.
Now we can take that responsibility from you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Riley, what about you?
I saw the film A Simple Favor on Thursday night with a friend of mine, and it was a delight. Like, it was just very fun. It's got some really, really good moments, and it's one of those ones where, like, I'd say for like the first act, and especially like the first half of the second act, you really don't know who's the bad, like what's going on. Like they really do a good job of, like, there's a lot of red herrings. There's a lot of things that make you think like, oh wait, is like you question which characters' motivations are like legit, which ones are things you're being misled on, like if you have an unreliable narrator situation or whatever. And it's also just like the chemistry between Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively in the first half of the movie is like really fun to watch because it's like half animosity, half like just like fascination and appreciation. It could be just there's a lot of like almost like not even subtle flirting happening at some points, and it's very like, as a queer girl, it's like, oh my god, I need more of this happening. But it's not as queer as it seems like it should be based on Blake Lively's suits. But and there's a couple, it's really fun. It's an interesting thing to see Paul Feig kind of do a different genre of movie than he's like typically doing. But it does fit the thriller progression, but it also does have some pretty good funny jokes in it. So. And it's my friend Aparna Nancherla's in it, and it was who's also been on BoJack. So
nice.
She plays his sister. But yeah, so it's a cool little thriller romp.
I really like Blake Lively, and I like that she kind of she disappeared for a little while because Hollywood sucks ass, and now she's kind of coming back and she's doing more stuff, and it's like, oh, that's great because she's like, what was it, the shark movie?
The Shallows.
She was fucking awesome in that.
She really won both of us over with that.
Yeah, like I mean, I enjoyed Blake Lively because she's in Green Lantern, and everybody loves Green Lantern.
Yeah.
But seriously, Shallows, she was fucking awesome in that movie.
She has these suits in this movie that are just like beyond like they're just mind-blowingly good suits, and like she has like the suit that she's wearing in the trailer, like it's got like cuffs, and like she like comes home and every single piece of this suit is a separate. Like she's not wearing a shirt underneath her vest. She's wearing like one of those like dicky kind of things that like you pull out, and like so then like she has like just like her vest, and then like she takes her jacket off, and like she's just wearing like this vest and this pants, and she has like cuffs that are like individual cuffs that look like sleeves coming out of her suit, and it's just like amazing. Like, yeah.
She's the
Wardrobe department had a good time there.
Yeah, it's just lots of canes, lots of like watch chains and stuff like that, and it's a delight.
God, I'm too lazy for fashion.
It's one of those things where
I mean, it helps when
continuity.
you have a wardrobe department who's
Yeah.
True, yeah.
But I'm also now thinking about keeping continuity of all that shit.
Well, I can't imagine because there are so many little pieces to her suits, and I bet you somebody who had like the real patience could probably go through and go, oh, her watch chain was actually this direction, and it was slipped up over this button last time, and but it was good.
Should we start fighting?
Yeah.
Is it that
Do
time?
it. Fight.
Yeah,
Fight.
yeah,
Fight.
Yeah.
So today, in honor of Venom coming out, in case anyone on the table did not know why we were doing this at Battle.
I did not know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Venom.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Even though Venom technically isn't a spinoff.
I don't know how they're gonna make Venom without Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Like, it's such
I
a
mean,
weird.
We'll see. I'm cautious with how much I want to badmouth a movie that isn't out yet, especially because
And
Chewie
I'm
knows the
vaguely
guy who
connected to-
Chewie knows the guy who made it, so I should keep my critiques to a minimum.
Yeah.
But I will say it's not technically a spinoff, but it did make me think of the battle of spinoff movie battles. So today we all chose a movie that is a spinoff. So I'm just going to say now that is not an argument. I know some people might want to be like, well, this one might not technically be an argument. They wouldn't have been accepted if they weren't a spinoff. So we can just jettison that argument out the gate. And the other thing I will say, because we have a friend who's on our show almost every other episode and is here quite often, who works for one of the companies that makes one of the movies on the table. Remember, everything we're saying today is in good fun. We're just trying to have a good time. I have enjoyed parts, if not all of, every movie on this table. So I just want to say that before we start ripping them to shreds.
When you're debating, you don't necessarily always say your true feelings. You just want to win.
Yeah, we're in this to win this. So disclaimers are out of the way.
I like
We're
all
good.
of these movies. I own 2 of them, and I've seen all of them.
Okay. It's your show.
Oh,
Who goes first?
Oh, that's right. I gotta.
I'll do the timer since I have it
okay.
over here.
All right. Let's see. What are the movies we got? Oh yeah, we haven't said what the movies are.
It's your show.
Well, then let's say what the fucking movies are, Brian. All right, Chewie, what's your movie?
Oh, I'm sorry. Chronicles of Riddick.
Lego Batman movie.
Rogue One.
Minions.
All right. I want to hear Chronicles of Riddick.
Do I have a timer? I'm going now.
You're
All right.
going.
Chronicles of Riddick, guys, where we have Vin Diesel playing Riddick. And first we fell in love with him in Pitch Black, which was a very surprisingly successful independent film. And then they decided everyone really attached themselves to Riddick. Why don't we make a movie about Riddick? So then they did, and it's completely bonkers, which is one of the reasons why I adore it. We have Riddick first hiding in a frozen planet, getting pursued by the mercs. He's got huge dreadlocks for some reason, and then he immediately goes to a desert planet, shaves those off because that's not really Riddick. And there's so much atmosphere in this movie, guys. He fights a bunch of dudes by artistically covering up some candles, and suddenly those 2 candles lit up the entire room, and now it's pitch black. Again, pitch black. And fights them and wins, of course. One of my reasons I love this movie so much is because it also has Carl Urban in it, and Tandy Newton, Colm for Judi fucking Dench, guys. Honestly, like, how do you get Judi Dench to be in this type of movie? He had to pursue her. Like, Vin Diesel pursued Judi Dench and wooed Judi Dench. There is some charisma there, because who woos Judi Dench? And she plays an elemental. She looks really cool, flowing all over the place. And the editing in this movie is bonkers. If you don't have at least a little bit of ADD in you, you cannot keep track of what's happening. Goodness, I was not ready to go first, apparently. I'm not going to win this battle. But essentially, you have a pretty good action movie. And, oh my God. This movie is so much fun. If you don't want to think, if you don't want to care about plot too much, if you don't want to care about good dialogue, and you're going in for like a B-movie schlock with an A-movie cast and an A-movie budget, you watch this movie because you're just going to have so much fun. Everyone's pretty. Everyone's greased up. Everyone is hamming it up on screen as much as they can. Tandy Newton plays one of the greatest, like, ultra villainesses I've seen almost ever, because she is just slathering herself on the screen, covered in snakeskin fabric, looking amazing. And she's trying to play the femme fatale, like coercing all this Carl Urban to do her bidding. So eventually she wants to be queen. You can totally tell. She's making him do stuff, kill people, get him out of her way, so she can eventually kill him later. That's a movie I would have loved to have seen, but we didn't get. Another spinoff. Opportunity, people.
I'm just waiting.
You want to tear me down so much.
There's so much to say.
And Kira is cool. Like, they don't really give her that much to do, but she's fun. She's fun in a way. She's always telling Vin Diesel, stop being a dick. You abandoned me. I had to go do my own thing, and you're mad about what I did? Well, I'm sorry. You weren't here. You're an absent dad. And yeah, I mean, you've seen it. You know what it's to love it. It's just a fun movie. I still have another minute.
What's like your favorite moment from it?
Yeah, like what draws you to the movie?
There's a fun part with the feeding time when they have these weird, like, stone cats, and they're the greatest predators ever, and then they have a staring contest with Riddick, and they become best buds, and suddenly he has a kitty sidekick for a second, and then they get rid of him. But they're there.
All right, so this is our 5 minutes to
I'm
attack
sorry.
it. I'm not sure how much we really need to try on
I'm
this.
sorry. I know this is.
I don't agree that it's a spinoff. I know your argument for it, but in my opinion, there's 3 movies. The same character is in all 3 of them. He's a pretty major character in all 3 of them. And also, I would argue that they may have wanted it to be a spinoff, but then Rob Tweedy doesn't know how to make anything but one story, apparently. So, in this movie with all this opulence and all this Judi Dench and all this, all this stuff happening, it ends up being another, we have to get across this planet and avoid this weird natural disaster movie for a good third of the movie.
Okay.
So I'm okay, well, I like your fancy fantasy and space veneer you're putting on it, but you're really just remaking Pitch Black, but putting it on a prison planet.
So many movies.
But that's a sequel. That's what I'm saying.
Except
and then the
sequel
Riddick is
is
the same
a
thing.
movie that involves more things than just one character that everyone attached to before. Because it's a
other
spin-off, they
characters
never planned to
die-
make this movie.
So if the other characters die, well, that happens with lots of sequels. Oh, this movie was a big hit. We're going to make another one. Hangover was a huge hit. We're making Hangover 2, and it's in Thailand.
They don't
It's not a
usually
spin-off.
change tone completely, though.
But they didn't.
They
I'm saying
they kept the
added
same
tone.
plot
no,
device, but they changed tone completely.
Hold on. They did change tone completely, and that's why this movie blows. Like, the Pitch Black is one of the best modern horror sci-fi movies made in I don't even know how long. And what we got was a militaristic community of people who were like with a prison ship that got crash landed on a planet with a whole bunch of badass aliens, and a dude that was so scary that he removed his own eyes to get eyes to see in the dark. And then they take out the one awesome thing about Vin Diesel, that he got his eyes removed to get a shine job so he could see in the dark, and just made it, no, he's a Furian. That's just part of his race. So they not only made a shitty sci-fi movie, they retconned all the cool shit out of Pitch Black.
But you can
to
do that
make
as
it
a
even
sequel
worse.
as well. That's what Highlander 2 is. It's still a sequel to Highlander, and it ruins the movie.
Yeah, and this
like,
movie just
Mortal
It's never-
Kombat Annihilation is a sequel to Mortal Kombat. It's a totally different movie. But I'm saying that like it's still ultimately it never figures out what it wants to be. It never figures out if it wants like the editing AD&D thing is like for me it's like that's because they don't know what movie they want to make. Like
They thought they were being deep. They were doing all these quick cuts where they had like slight frames of different shots in there.
yeah.
They're
In
trying
one-
to Fight Club it essentially.
When I
in
saw
one
it,
scene alone,
everyone in our theater complained to the theater and got our money back because we thought that an editing mistake was like the film broke during the movie. Like we actually like, hey, like 5 minutes of this story just went away, and everyone's like, and then we all got our money back because the theater thought it was a mistake too.
So
And
they
only
Last
on
Jedi'd
HBO.
it?
yeah.
And
Oh,
then,
the sound went out.
Oh, you're not helping.
and then let's also
Hey,
edit.
but no, I'm
that
talking about how
Kira-
people were dumb and thought that
Oh,
was
okay.
an
Kira
accident.
ruins the best character. One of the best characters in Pitch Black is Kira was like a girl who was presenting herself as a boy, and so it's like this cool, tough girl. And then like in the movie, they made her like they recast the actor as a hotter, like sexier version, and they made like she's Kira now. Like they made her like a very stereotypical like big boobed action hero.
See, I was just talking about how this movie is just fun schluck, and you guys wanted a deep, dark movie like the first one. It's not what it is.
No, I would have been fine with a fun schluck, but the things that they did with it, I did not want to just watch the sun rising over a planet and essentially have what is Pitch Black but happening almost the opposite. Well, now it's like instead of being in the dark, you can't be in the light. Like that's basic. And then because Riddick then tries
There's
to
so
like
many movies that do that exactly.
No, but I don't even. My thing is,
that's true. But I wouldn't argue that one that does it means that it's the best movie.
And my thing is, I don't even care that whether or not it's a sequel. I don't give a shit. Like the fact of the matter is, I want a good movie. Like I want the fun schlocky movie that you're talking about, because this movie isn't that. The moments that have that are great, and then the shitty filmmakers kind of went every now and then went, well, maybe this scene should be really serious and sci-fi. That doesn't work in the movie that you're trying to make. And then I just need to bring up just one line that, like, this is supposed to be a very serious scene, and I had to stop it and write the line down because it's so horrible.
I kind of love watching this movie with my husband, by the way, because he gets so mad,
I-
and then he
I-
gets
while
so
he's
mad when
looking
I
it up,
enjoy
I got
it.
it. I got it.
Because
So
we're running out
this
of
is a
time
line
and
that
talking.
Vin Diesel delivers to somebody, try to help him break out of prison. When it happens, it'll happen fast. Stay on my leg when I cut fence, or stay here for the rest of your unnatural life. And the guy replies with, nobody outs this place. What the fuck are you talking about? This
They're
movie
trying
is
to be cool.
it's
What I was going to say
painfully
is that
awful.
I think that they were trying to pitch it as a potential spin-off, like a whole. He wanted it to be like a new trilogy with like he wanted it to be like Pitch Black was The Hobbit, so this is Lord of the Rings. But you can't do that if Bilbo is one of the main characters of the first movie. And also, I think that it was intended to be a spin-off, and then all he knew how to do was make a sequel to the movie he already made.
You're out of time. Who goes next?
I want to hear John talk about Minions.
Okay.
In a complete 180.
Yeah. And now for something different. What I really like about Minions, first and foremost, is just the idea that it's about searching for family and a sense of found family. The intro is kind of a hilarious and effective way that it kind of presents that as they try to find their big boss, and kind of their existence is wrapped up on that, and kind of delving into that, the family you find. I really like that they don't, even though they don't speak human language, they can somehow in this movie they remain understandable and relatable. And at first you would think like, oh, this is like they're gonna make a movie about the minions from Despicable Me. That doesn't. Okay, they're cute, but can they sustain it? And I think they can. And it's for the fact that they really kind of layer them in their search for a place to belong and a sense of that, what that means. I like that the person that they gravitate to immediately is the character of Scarlet Overkill, as like this kind of badass woman with a fashion forward, mind you, like a rocket dress that is super. I mean, rocket dresses sound pretty cool. And what's interesting about her character is that it takes some not so obvious choices with her. First is with her husband Herb Overkill, who never like calls into question her authority, or like, oh, you're the best. He's kind of like her cheerleader, but he never questions it. He goes along with what she says, her plans for Dominion, even kind of if the plan might not work, he just goes with it. He's her kind of cue, her equipment guy, but also they have this love for each other, or like this infatuation that is kind of interesting, and you don't necessarily see it. And I think Sandra Bullock as Scarlet Overkill and John Hamm really kind of play that off of each other really well. Let's see. What's also interesting too is that the concept of the minions themselves is that being drawn to evil only to thwart it. So they're kind of like these accidental good guys in a way, but they're still kind of drawn to that evil, and they're able to find these bad guys. And the beginning montage is so great for that, and it also kind of helps separate it from just being this is another Despicable Me. It's more like this is focused on kind of their journey, and having the narrator, the voiceover in the beginning too, kind of coupled with that. I generally don't always care about voiceovers, but it just makes this thing feel distinct and different. The music, always a good touch, and they said it in the late 60s, so it's like solid musical choices and a solid soundtrack, and it really works and sets the vibe. King Bob is pretty amazing, and there's when he kind of takes his throne and does his little speech in front of everyone, they don't get it. He's like, "A King of Bob!" And everyone freaks out and he drops the mic. It's all very great. But his arc is also very interesting in the story too. And at first he's very tentative and like afraid. And by the end, he's taking his crown that he's given by the Queen and giving it to Scarlet Overkill. And in sort of a, you lost, but here's a redemptive kind of like, I don't know. It was a weird kind of, a weird gesture that you don't see in villains and hero kind of back and forth, and kind of a level that it was kind of sweet. And it was also very interesting that they throw a little monster movie kind of giant kaiju element in there too, and they have some fun with that. And I thought that was pretty interesting. On a technical side, Minions is also edited by a woman, so that's pretty cool. And I don't know, I'm just really impressed with what they managed to do with something that seems like a cash grab. Like, we're just making this separate to get more money, but here's all these kind of more nuanced choices. And I really think that's a really kind of effective, great, and kind of what makes it the better spin-off at the table.
So that's our 5 minutes to say why he's wrong. My major thing with this movie is that you nailed it. You said it's a cash grab. That's what it is. They might have had some good moments in there and some good story beats in there, but there's maybe 30 minutes of quality movie in this hour-and-a-half movie, and the rest of it's just treading water. And that's why this movie drives me up the wall. Like, it's not that it's a bad movie. It's not that it does things poorly or has bad characters or any of that, except for Sandra Bullock just did not try. She slept walk through the whole entire thing, and it drives me nuts because everyone else is like up as high as they can be, and she's just kind of there. But that's a whole different thing. But the fact of the matter is that we get to, like, the whole movie just exists to put the minions in a situation and just like, all right, now be funny. All right, we're just going to sit here. Are we out of jokes? We're out of jokes? All right, on to the next thing. And then we're going to put them in this situation. Be funny.
Yeah.
We're going to wait.
It's a comedy genre that I'm not a fan of in general, which is just like, here's a bunch of physical
slapstick,
jokes.
joke, pause, joke, pause, joke, pause.
Yeah, it's like just, all right, so it'd be funny if they're in the 60s. Put them in a small town in the 60s.
Yeah.
All right, get as many jokes out of this as we can.
It's like half-form sketches.
Yeah.
It's like someone took the brainstorming room where they were thinking of jokes and then just put them all in, as opposed to like, hey, what actually works for like a cohesive plot, or what's the most fun? It's just like, here's all the jokes we thought of. It's like when they make those improvised movies where they just use every good, like just random like non sequitur jokes that don't really fit the scene.
And they also did one of my cardinal sin things where they tell me we have a strong female character, guys, but her entire essence is wrapped up with wanting to be a princess. She steals jewelry, and her special powers have to do with fashion. Like, so you have a strong female character, except you just still played into every trope about a woman.
But the movie allows her to do that, though.
Well, her entire essence is wanting to get something shiny and then to be a princess. Like, how is that strong and empowering if that's just a trope refashioned again, selling the same thing to girls?
But being able to choose that, to be able to have that, like, to take over the world and be fashionable, is that
But
wrong
it's
to have
still
it
the same
both at
motivation
outset?
for a female. It's not really building anything new.
But it never counts against her as being a negative either. No one treats her fashion as a weakness. It's always kind of
If she's-
filmed as like this
I
badass
guess. That's
thing.
not
but it's still
that's not
her
the argument.
obsession.
Like the argument
Yeah.
isn't whether or not it's treated as a weakness. The argument is the motivation.
That's all that she is she's a girl and she wants to have high fashion and she wants pretty things.
I mean, I agree with what
Like
you're
Sandra
saying.
Bullock's character in Ocean's 8 wants to steal jewels, but she wants to steal jewels because she's trying to craft the perfect crime. It's not, oh, I want the shiny pretty thing because I'm a pretty lady.
And this one, it's just I want to
It's
be
repackaging the same tropes.
And on top of that, like the Sandra Bullock character is like problematic in tons and tons of ways, and it's just kind of like I don't understand. It felt like a half-formed idea of a character that they just kind of went, all right, we're good, right? Well, no, we need to spend time like developing like backstory or anything. No, we're just gonna go ahead with it. All right, Sandra Bullock, you available? Cool. And it never connected. Like, so we have 3 minions that have somewhat personality. They're minion personality, but they're a little bit more defined, and that's fine. But then everyone else is just a horde, which is, again, okay, but it doesn't really make me connect to anybody. So we have a villain that you don't connect to. Her husband, who's, I mean, I love John Hamm, and I love funny John Hamm, and that's all he's there to do is to be funny John Hamm.
And kind of like Austin Powers.
Yeah, but like just every single person is just half formed. So we never get an actual character, an actual arc, or actual anything. We just get almost there. So it's almost more annoying because everything's a tease. Everything's like, hey, wouldn't this be awesome if we did this? All right, we're not going to, but it would be cool, right? And then it's just like, well, yeah, it would have been. But like any one of these situations that you just plunk them into, you had enough material to make a whole movie, but instead you just wasted it on 5 minutes of jokes and moved on to the next one.
And they rehash joke. It's always fun to revisit a joke, but not to deliver it the exact same way over and over again, which is what they did as well.
Yeah, it kills
it's
the
really
joke.
lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I would have watched an entire movie called The Minions where it was them on a road trip with that crazy ass family going to VillainCon, and then the whole thing is about getting to VillainCon. That's a movie, and it's an entertaining movie. Like, oh shit, turns out we're in a family of bad guys, and that could have been a plot 2, like a act 2
I would've
twist.
loved that one.
Like, there's so much cool stuff in that one story, but instead, like, no, wouldn't it be cool if the Minions fired a rocket launcher and killed a whole bunch of cops, and then we're just gonna move past it as if it didn't happen?
But I even
Done.
like the little girl like, I messed up, Daddy. It's okay, honey. It's your first robbery.
Yeah, like
or whatever
there's
he said. to her.
really
That's
cool
cute.
things in there.
That's great.
Yeah, but then we just leave it, and it's like that
Yeah.
was your movie, and that was a
we
great
come
movie.
in to tickle me with like Gru already established as a villain, and it would have been fun to have a movie that's more about like how villains like slowly work their way up. Like it might have been, like the minions might have been like working with a kid who's becoming a villain. And that's how they like it.
Oh, they nurture his villainy.
Yeah.
That would have been cute.
Like, there's so many things they could have done, and instead they did none of them and just did a sequence of jokes for an hour and a half.
Defend. Go.
Yeah, 4
Still
seconds.
connected by 3 compelling characters.
Oh, wow. You guys are making this easy so far.
Who goes next?
Okay, all right. Yeah, well, I like the zigzag thing, so let's go to Rogue One next.
Okay.
Oh, I had to finish this.
Well, I wanted, like, action movie, comedy, animated comedy, action movie, animated comedy.
It
it's
makes
more
sense.
fun that way. We're just
Just-
going back and forth.
Trying to bring this home with Lego Batman is going to be difficult,
Bring
but I
it
look
home.
forward to it.
All right.
Okay, so what I like about Rogue One is that what Star Wars is really interesting about when it's at its best is its ability to take other types of movies and put them into this fantasy space universe, a space opera universe. And we've seen so much of that. Like the original trilogy is such like a samurai film kind of thing, or like the hero with 1,000 faces kind of story. Whereas Rogue One does that same exact thing, but with a war movie concept. So you've got all of your typical tropes you would have in a war movie. So some of the characters occasionally feel a little bit stereotypical or a little bit like two-dimensional, but it's because they're based on that exact thing which you see in a war movie. And I think that for a series of films that is called Star Wars, I feel like Rogue One, to me, gets the closest to depicting what a war in the stars looks like, because the entire third act of that movie, once they get on Scarif and they like are plotting their whole thing of breaking into the facility, and then the rebels arrive and there's this whole battle between the rebels and the Empire, that to me is the single best space battle that happens in these movies. And when you have the combination of the like guerrilla warfare on the ground that's like actively trying to give an advantage to the rebel ships in the sky, you have these moments like crashing ships into the like the locked base like entrance to like, so that you have these like sacrifices that you're having, and no one was prepared to have this battle, so they're all suddenly like kind of scrambling to figure out what their strategies are. That's really interesting to me. On top of that, I think that Jen Erso is a really fun lead character. I would have liked them to have built her up a little bit more, so I'm gonna poke that defense a little bit, because I was so excited for her in the trailers, and I wish there was a little bit more of her, but I still do like her, and I like that she is someone who is in a rebellion, and I like that shows that, especially in these stages of the rebellion, there is not this cohesive, like, perfect idealism that rebellion has. There are these factions of it that kind of conflict with each other and have, like, arguments over what means justify the ends they're going for, because there is this element of, like, if we do become as bad of an insurgency, if we become as laissez-faire on human existence or life existence, because it's not all humans, it's aliens, but this idea that if all we can do is just do as equally horrible things to fight our enemy, are we not as bad as they are? And there's that element to it with the spying and the murdering and stuff like that. But also, so in Star Wars, the motion picture, we do understand that the Empire is bad, because they have stormtroopers, and there's a big guy in a black suit who can choke people to death, and they blow up a planet. But that blowing up the planet mostly happens off screen. Like, we see the planet, but we don't see the effect that it has, even on Leia. Like, she's sad, but we don't see, like, the aftermath of the lives that are being affected by that. So that's an element of it. But then at the end of Revenge of the Sith, we see the Republic fall and the Empire take over, but that's where the movie ends. Rogue One is the first time in these Star Wars movies that I feel like we really get a legitimate view of how oppressive life is for day-to-day people under the Empire. Because when we get to Jeddah, like, we see that Star Destroyer just parked in the sky above this temple. We see people trying to, like, live in this town, but they're, like, under occupation. Like, you see the physical presence of the Empire in a way that I don't think that we really do in other Star Wars movies, because we're almost always seeing them from, like, oh, they're attacking a military base, or they're coming in to do this, and, like, there's a quick fight scene and they go elsewhere. Whereas in this one, it's like, this is like a day-to-day life of these people, and, like, there are people in these, like, city planets that are, like, sneaking down alleyways to try to talk to each other, and, like, one guy is gonna kill another guy to escape rather than, like, risk the information he has getting to these enemies. So that's a thing that I think that is for a series of films that is called Star Wars, and that is based in the premise of there being this oppressive empire that is, like, chokeholding all these planets. I think that it's great to finally have a movie that really shows you, just from a personal point of view, what that is like. So that is fun. And then I also like the K2SO as the droid that is on the ship that they're using, because he's a reprogrammed Imperial droid. And I think there's a lot of talk in Star Wars movies about, like, or around Star Wars movies, I should say, about, like, how much agency droids have, and, like, are, like, whenever, like in, to go to Solo real quick, there's a whole thing about, like, does this droid have consciousness? Was she programmed to behave this way? Could you just erase the droid and, like, restart them and have them be the same character? And my fan theory on droids is that their personality is made up of kind of the combination of the experiences they're having with their programming and how they marry and stuff. Like, am I done?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
Joey, you said you had a good argument. I don't want to step on your toes.
Well, this is one of the ones where it's going to be like, all right, I'm going to pull against myself with these arguments here. The one thing, a couple of things in this movie, actually. K2SO, since you ended on that, my one issue with this movie with that is, how is the droid more emotionally versatile than some of the main characters? That is one thing that has always kind of annoyed me. He has better beats, he has better moments than a lot of the other characters.
Why shouldn't a droid have a better... Like, why should droids be lesser
it's
than...
one of those things where he's surrounded by all these flesh beings, essentially, where normally
but it's not his
they
movie.
want those to be the... And we have, like, the two main characters. And in the send-off, I actually cried more when Kay died than when they died.
Yeah, I just don't think of that as a flaw, because Kay's an important... I don't think droids are less important as
It's just kind of a
characters.
weird thing in this movie.
But I don't think it's his movie, which is kind of unfair to the main character.
I have no problem with, because I would say C-3PO is arguably the main character in Star Wars. He's the point character
one of the
everything.
main characters.
But there could be an argument for him being the main character, and I'm fine with that argument. Like, I'm not sure if I agree with it, but
we're tearing
I'm
it
fine
down,
with
honey.
I'm talking about Star Wars, not Rogue One. So I'm saying that the problem is this one, it is not K2SO. I should not feel more for him dying than I do the main characters, Because to me, that just tells me that I spent more time with him than I did with Jyn and Kaylin.
Yeah.
See, I feel my defense of that point is that I think that Jyn and Kaylin are soldiers. Like, they've always been part of this rebellion their whole life. So them dying for their cause is kind of
But Jyn
what
has
they
doesn't
believe
work
in.
because Jyn doesn't even. She's never actually a rebel. She's doing all this for her dad.
But she was in Saul's group, so she actually was a rebel.
She was in Saul's group because she had no family and she was picked up by him and then later abandoned
But
by
that's
him.
still why that's still.
She was never
all
a
she
rebel.
has.
She was always just following the men.
she
was
never-
following Saul, and then she was doing something that her daddy told her to do.
She never fully had agency and decided to be there until the end of the movie, which again is
And she
fine.
still
but it's
decided
just,
to
So
be
when
there
she
because
gets
her
the
dad
agency
told her
decides to do
to.
it, then
She decided when she
goes
was
for
there, and that seems kind of like, well, you could have decided before.
And
She could have, but I'm saying that what I'm saying is that she still dies in a cause she believes in.
In a cause
K2
because
never
she's
had a
doing what her
choice 'cause he
dad
was
told her to do.
But that's the same as K2. K2 was reprogrammed by the rebels to fight on behalf of the rebels.
so then
it's
he
the
doesn't
same
really have
thing.
sentience or agency either.
Which
And
is
it would
why
be-
you feel worse for him when he dies because
would-
he's being forced to die.
so
And it would be one thing if it was just K2 that was had the most emotional death than the main characters, but then you have Donnie Yen's character, who I was way more sad for him dying too. And
I
his
was very-
partner.
I was stabbing all
and
the-
like
He actually
when
had
he was
the-
on
died.
screen, it was
He actually
great.
had the best death because he, for that one moment, was actually connected to the Force.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
but-
so amazing.
But
love
And
my,
that.
but my major thing is that, again, this is the problem with the movie and every movie he's ever made. And don't me wrong, I like him as a director, but he shoots way more than he intends on putting in a film. Way, way, way more. If you hire him, you're going over budget. It's just a guarantee. But because of that, he can give all of these wonderful characters full arcs. These wonderful storylines that we're never going to see, and in the editing process, he trims it down so much that you have to watch
miss
them.
it.
You miss out on things, and you might pick up on it after multiple viewings. But on your one go, you're going to walk away going, "I really liked this character,"
Yeah.
and everyone else just isn't there. And it's not. And I want to say that's a good thing because it gives you a reason to rewatch it, but it really means that we're missing out on stuff. Like, he's just not doing his job of getting everything done in the time frame. He gets it done in a 4-hour time frame for a movie that Disney will never allow to be released, that he would never allow to be released, and we're just kind of screwed. 'cause-
And on second rewatch, I started to notice that it did, like, I could see seams, and that was
Yeah.
like the first time I watched it, there was a hype behind it that I could kind of ignore this, but this movie did feel kind of disjointed. Suddenly, like over halfway through the movie, I'm like, oh, she's suddenly like acting like a rebel. She's acting like one of them. But that conversion scene, like, I had to remember, like, oh, I guess it happened when she saw the video of her dad, and then she just decided to be emotive about it later. Like, there's some weird logic leaps that I think needed the more in between.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have been cut out. But with a movie that you film so long, you have to cut it out. And I deal with this all the time with people who overshoot and and I have to overcut. It's
Yeah.
like you just
I guess
lose the
I
theme
get
of
that.
it.
I'm saying out of all the movies that we've had on the table so far today, I think the one's biggest flaw is that there's too much good stuff to include into one movie. I feel like that's not as much of a knock.
yeah,
I say that about every
compared
Zack
to the
Snyder
editing
film.
about Riddick. I mean, compared to the
But it's
editing,
like- but it's
compared
like they
to-
picked the-
compared to Minions, where the problem is like they just kind of like shoved filler in to fill the time.
It's
I think
easy
being
when
like,
you phrase it like there's too
some
much good
filler
stuff,
in this
but it's
movie,
that
too.
he
Like,
couldn't
I'm not
figure
saying
out.
there's not, but I'm saying
Like,
that the issue is there's always great things that are left on the table because we had to get it to fit into one movie.
One of
It's
the-
better than the other two movies so
One of the
far.
most glaring, like, shoehorned in, why is it there, and then it's left immediately, is Borgulette. Borgulette.
Oh,
or whatever
no!
it's
I
like.
will fight. I
Like-
will fight. Borgall is the hill that I will die on. It's the weird Star Wars Muppet that comes in.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
But even it doesn't even
We're out
work
of time.
because the thing that
we're out of time.
Damn it!
Yeah.
The thing they say it doesn't even do.
No, we're out of time. No, hang on. We had to stop talking about your movie. We're not going to get to have defenses about mine afterwards. And so do we.
I
We got
heard
cut off
your
on
point.
ours.
Yeah.
Is it time for Lego
It's not
Batman?
fair.
Clocks are
We're
bitches.
gonna end on Lego Batman.
Okay.
Bring it, Brian.
Bring it home, honey.
I'm not gonna say that. All right.
Can we talk about Batman?
Can we talk about Batman? So my timing has started. So here we go. The idea for a spin-off in my mind is there's a movie where something works and it works so unbelievably well that, like, yeah, I bet we can make a whole movie out of that. Enter the Lego movie and we have the character Batman. And Batman connects with an audience already because he's fucking Batman. And then Will Arnett does such a good job with the character Batman that they honestly went, yeah, we can make a whole movie out of this. And it really, I mean, Lego movie in itself is a cash grab. Like, that's just, you understand that it is a commercial for Legos the second you buy a ticket. So knowing that going into Lego Batman, you know, like, all right, so we're here to sell some Legos Batman. Okay, cool. I got that. I can move forward with it. Within that, this movie manages to be both a celebration of the Lego movie, a celebration of Batman, and a celebration of like family. And it does it all very well. It's like having a gargantuan party that everyone is invited to. And I'm still kind of surprised they pull it off. Because I wasn't a huge fan of Lego Movie. Like I was the first time I saw it, and then every other rewatch I've kind of gone, there's parts that work, there's parts that don't. I've enjoyed every rewatch of Lego Batman the same amount that I enjoyed it the first time, which I think speaks largely to the characters. And I think they did a very good job making Batman a horrible fucking dickhead that nobody should be friends with until he has to fix himself. And I think that's the best version of Batman. Like, I like that Batman is somebody that he can't be fixed. Like, there's no external force that will make Batman a better person. He needs to do it himself. He can have all of the building blocks to have that, and it won't work unless he chooses it. And I think that's a very realistic thing and a relatable thing, and it happens in this movie. Because he gets Dick Grayson, he has Alfred, he eventually has Barbara Gordon on his side, and he has all these people that want to help him and want to be friends with him. But he's just a horrible asshole. And it's not until he locks everybody away and tries to play the hero card and goes to do things on his own, has to see people without him trying to do his fight for him, that he's like, oh shit, I'm the problem. And I like that this very kids movie, literally there to sell us toys, has an actual emotional punch where somebody has to grow up and be the bigger person and be the better person, and it works. And it works in a way where he has to tell Joker that he's, for the longest time, no, you're just one of my villains. I'm just kind of fighting around a little bit. Like, I'm not in love with it, or I'm not in hate with any one villain. And he has to admit to the Joker, like, no, you are my arch nemesis. We do hate each other a whole bunch. And it's like touching, and it's sweet, and it's kind of nice, in a very weird sort of, all right, the Joker's going to go murder half of the city now because you admit that you're buddies. But I like that because it's still Batman. Like, there's so much of the stuff that just is the character Batman. And they do a great way of showing love to Batman throughout all of the ages. They go to the 60s, they go all the way up to Batman vs. Superman, which was questionable, but whatever. And I like that when they go to the Adam West Batman, they just throw the Legos out and they just show a clip of Adam West dancing. Like, it's just like the movie knew what it was from the beginning, and because of that, it was able to have fun. And that's kind of what the whole thing comes down to, is it's just for fun. And I think that was something that, even on my first watch, I kind of missed. Because when I think of Batman, I think of one of my favorite characters in anything ever. So I go in expecting a Batman movie, which was not the right way to go about it. Especially when, like, the first thing that we get is a Nolan-esque robbery of a plane that's filled with bombs. And the plane is called MacGuffin Air. And it's like, I should have cued into it immediately, like, oh no, this isn't what I expected it to be. This is going to be a Lego movie, but just overdressed with Batman. And that's entirely what it is. So we have the Nolan-esque thing. They even pull on like a Hans Zimmer-esque score where it's totally like they're taking down this plane, just like a Nolan movie. It has all like the beats like a Nolan movie, and then it moves into this crazy Lego thing from there. And then all the villains start coming in, and they list off like every B and C list villain that they can possibly think of. And I like that even the movie's self-referential was like, I feel like you made some of those up. No, they're all real. Probably worth a Google. And they are totally real. Even Condiment King, who's the worst fucking villain ever. Or Kite King, that Tom King just totally made or Kite Man, who Tom King just made a totally legitimate character and awesome in the current Batman run. You should totally read it. But they just went fucking bonkers with everyone to voice these villains, including, and this is my favorite one, they got Doug Benson to voice Bane, because on the podcast Doug Loves Movies, he mocks Bane every single episode, and they knew that, and they went and got him, and they got him to be Bane in this. And I just the fact that they had that knowledge of like nerd culture and what Batman means to people, and they're able to put it into this movie, which is essentially a love letter to both the fans of Batman and to Batman himself, I think is amazing, and everyone should watch it. That's my time. All right, go for it.
So the Batman in this movie, I understand it's a Lego thing. My biggest complaint is the response to this movie. I had so many friends that went, this is the Batman we deserve. This is the Batman I've been waiting for. I love this Batman. This is the best Batman movie ever. And I'm just like, this is a self-aware, like, self-mocking satire of Batman. And this is the thing, what you think is the best Batman? What's wrong with you?
I never once said it was the best Batman, for the record.
But it's just the amount of anger I actually had after seeing this movie because of other people's responses soiled it in a way, because I love Batman so much. And there's things that are enjoyable in this movie, but it just brought a certain amount of fandom from itself that made me mad.
No parody will ever be the best version of a movie ever. That's not what this movie is trying to be, though.
I think my issue with it as a parody is the same issue that I have with like the Ghostbusters reboot, which is that I think that sometimes when a parody's joke is just, this thing, I get, and I think this movie is so full of that kind of thing. Like your example of like, here's all my villains. Yeah, they're all real. You can Google it. Like, that's funny. But it's also like, I feel like it's a whole movie of that. It's a whole movie like, isn't Batman weird, you guys? And that after a while, it grates on me because I'm like, yeah, Batman is really dark and brooding to an obnoxious level sometimes.
Kind of bipolar.
Yeah, and it feels like that's kind of the well that everybody goes to when we're making fun of Batman. So I didn't feel like it. I do like that it kind of like does actually go to the realm of like, oh, maybe we can fix Batman at the end, or he can fix himself. But otherwise, I feel like it's just trotting the same formula over and over again. And I feel like, even with Will Arnett as the voice, I kind of feel like, to call back to where we are this week, or where we're doing this week, whatever it's called, I think that what Arnett is doing with BoJack Horseman is what he's doing with Lego Batman, but I think he does it a million times better with BoJack Horseman, so I kind of feel like Lego Batman is a shorter and a little bit more like trying too hard version of what BoJack Horseman does so effectively.
I would agree with that, but the fact of the matter is that the Lego movie is not made for us to talk about depression and addiction and asexuality and all these things. Lego movie is literally there to sell us Legos. So the fact that we get anything else on top of that, to me, is gravy. And I think the fact that we got even a comparable performance to BoJack Horseman out of Will Arnett's Lego Batman is incredible. Like, the fact that you can even make that leap, I think,
it's the same actor.
impressive.
It's not a leap when the same actor is doing a voice.
But it's a totally different character.
Oh, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think it's oh yeah, the rich playboy who is lonely and pushes people away. What a totally different character.
I think that's where it falters for me. Is that
Is BoJack Horseman Batman?
No, he's Horseman.
he's Horseman.
He's Horseman.
is that like for that the arc at the end, the change, the transformation of his character never seems to make sense because I don't see there's not a difference established between Bruce Wayne and Batman. He's just Batman as Bruce Wayne, and there's they keep him in joke territory for as long as they need to get the jokes out of the way before getting to the heartfelt stuff. And I feel like in the beginning, at least in the beginning, they really start to they push that aside for the joke of, like you said, look at this. But I want to specifically address Barbara Gordon, who they do the wild style thing with her that the Lego movie did. And it was kind of unfortunate because they started off as being like, I'm going to clean up crime and everything. But then she takes a back seat to Batman the rest of the time. And he always talks down to her as the joke, but the joke is also the thing he's doing, which I always like, okay, are we going to transcend that wild style joke
And
from the
it's
first
They
one?
did so much better with Barbara Gordon than they did with Wild Style. Like,
That's
so much
But that's
better.
a sharp curve, and it's not. You're not winning the race now. You're just a little bit further along.
Sure, but I'll
Yeah.
take that further along than what they did with Wild Style. At least Barbara Gordon is a character who has agency for like 5 minutes as opposed
Right,
to
but they
no
still had to
fucking
make her
minutes.
a love interest of Batman.
Yeah,
to make
I've
her
never
a
liked
thing in
Barbara
the
Gordon
story.
being a love
Yeah.
interest ever.
Like, we couldn't just have her be an effective character. It has to be, oh no, she's Batman's new girlfriend now.
And
Well,
then
by
they-
the end of the movie, he says they're just friends. He gives up on the romantic thing. He realizes he was wrong with that. So he does have that. He grows up and he leaves it behind. Like, that is not where it ends with them being girlfriends. It starts with him going,
If it
I
ended
wanna
with them
date-
being girlfriends, I'd be all about it. Like, true. Transgender Batman and her lesbian lover, like, I am here for it.
I would totally watch that
That's
movie.
the next
but
one with Batwoman.
That's the real Batman.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Just is like when he starts to build a family at the end, but at the same time, he is so cruel in the beginning to Robin that you can't help.
And
It's kind of like the thing he has to overcome becomes part of the joke as well.
Yeah.
And it starts to kind of muddle that a little bit, at least in
Yeah.
the beginning, where it's like, no hugs.
But
no
then it
hugs.
gets better.
It's like when,
throughout
it's
the
like
end. I
when Death
agree.
Race
Then they
ends
have
with
some
like,
of
hey,
the-
by the way, violence is bad.
But
You're
they
like,
spend
just
more
now
time.
you're saying that?
They spend a lot of concentrated time on him putting Robin down.
Yeah.
and it's very weird, like as a thing to sell toys and is funny to kind of be so cruel and then suddenly change your mind and be better.
They had
It's
some
weird.
moments.
But he does
of-
get better. That's the
Yeah.
point. He gets better.
They had.
That's out of time.
They kept trying to get my thing in there.
And I kept trying to steamroll. I took a
Yeah,
lesson from Sam.
I
pedophile
was about to
jokes.
say that is like Sam's MO, is just to keep fucking talking.
That's it.
Okay, so now I get to do a speech.
You can do
You
a
have to
speech.
Say what you liked and disliked about
I
all
will.
of us.
Okay. I always love how, that's why I wanted you to go first. I always love how passionate you get because you're so excited.
I know. I'm so deflated today.
But even then, you were pretty excited. And you did point out one thing, which no one else went after, But you pointed out there are pretty people in the Chronicles of Riddick, which is very much a thing I care about.
How do you go after
oh
that?
my
Has
God.
Carl Urban in it?
This is one of the reasons
I know, but nobody else mentioned they're pretty
It is
people.
one of the
I'm just
reasons
saying
that
she
Carl
knew.
Urban's on
I
my
mentioned
chart.
She knew to
Felicity
go
Jones,
there.
Yeah,
but
someone goes after Carl Urban, and you're like, well, bullshit. You're lying. You can't fake that. You can't fake being
It
against
hurts
him.
my soul when people don't understand how attractive he is.
Yeah, he's very attractive.
Mm.
R.I.P. Almost Human.
Right?
So good. And you're right. Chronicles of Riddick is kind of a fun watch if you just shut off your brain. But yeah, that's not good enough to win. It's just like, well, this movie's pretty terrible, but it's fun and has pretty people in it. I do enjoy the scene where Riddick like stabs somebody and then stabs somebody and then stabs somebody and stabs somebody. Like he walks
They
forward.
all
and
just
keeps
stand there like,
stabbing
here's my head.
Oh, that brings
wanna
me
put
to
a
one of
knife
the
in
things
here?
that I forgot I was supposed to talk about is how the machismo in the movie is so cheesy and
It's
amazing.
amazing. But it's not a good.
I do
and-
like the way he pays off the guy who can like step out of his own body and like step and like that he uses that against him later on.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
was
Trying to
pretty
get
good.
rid of
It's
it.
Yeah,
great
there's
movie,
not
guys.
terrible.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, okay. There's
All right, well
some
let's
watchable
not
things.
use words we don't mean.
Yeah,
I mean it.
but yeah,
No, but there's lots of movies that are like really fun to watch that
Yeah.
I would say is like I love Jupiter Ascending, but I would
Yeah.
never argue it as like to win a battle.
Oh,
anyway.
I will bring up Battleship because
Yeah.
that's I can't not. And how much I love it. Okay, so obviously not Chronicles of Riddick and not Minions either because John, man, you were so deflated in your arguments. You were just like, it's a good movie, and everybody's like, rah, 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 and you were like, ah. So I feel a lot of passion coming off you. I don't think you believe it's the best movie on the table.
I think that's just nerves, honestly.
Okay,
It's more of a-
Your thumbs were trembling.
your
Yeah.
thumbs were trembling.
It's
yeah.
more of a performance thing.
yeah. Aw.
I deal with that.
She patted him on the shoulder.
I
just
like you.
for the audio.
Every
play.
episode you're getting better though.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you,
So
you did a great logical argument. You had a lot of really good points, but then those points were pretty easily torn down. But
Yeah.
you weren't prepared to come back at everybody. and
You
that
were like
just
a
sort of-
you were like a villain who was being supported by the minions. You were easily knocked down.
But we didn't kill you.
because like Chewie
Yeah.
brought up pretty people. You knew to bring up that there is a female villain who's kind of badass, but then everybody kind of tanked that. So but that's the thing that usually scores points with me. So that's
I thought it was a pretty well calculated argument.
Yeah,
Like,
it
oh,
was.
go
It
for the
was-
women thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very logical argument. The problem is like it was lacking the passion.
Whereas
Chewie's
I just
all
had to-
passion. You're all logic. So if you guys can just like
Yeah,
To
I
morph
ran out of
into
time
a-
before I could
Together
get to
you would
Mon
be-
Mothma.
A Pathologic Voltron or something.
yeah. Okay, so that leaves Lego Batman and Rogue One. I tried to be like really objective, even though Rogue One is one of my favorite movies and it's my favorite Star Wars movie, and I have a fucking tattoo in my arm. But but I'm trying. I'm going as my partner and I are going as Jenner, so Insured Imway for Halloween this year. So I'm trying really hard to like be objective today, which is why it was actually kind of good that you guys didn't have like super strong arguments. It made it easier. But yeah, Lego Batman, that was a really good argument. Obviously, Rogue One was a good argument, and you guys did a really good job of pointing out some of the problems that I have with Rogue One, which is you're right. That creature, he made a big deal about it, and then it did nothing, which is the point you were about to make.
He
at the
didn't
end.
lose his mind.
Yeah, nothing. Nothing came.
He
of
was
that.
actually quite sane.
Yeah, which maybe that was something that was on the cutting
It
room
was.
floor. Yeah, and that's a problem with the movie. The fact that what was it? Yeah, Jen's sudden reversal. I wish it had been more earned. Again, probably something on the cutting room floor. So that is a
Again,
problem.
yes, it is.
Yeah, that's the problem with the movie. But
We
also,
need the Snyder cut of Rogue One, guys.
I would love to see the Edwards cut of it. I'd be
Yeah.
super excited.
I
to
would
see
watch
the,
a 5-hour
the
version of it, no
pre-reshoot
problem.
version. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally
I would
watch it.
pay to
Just
see
make
a
it a
5-hour
mini
version.
series.
I would have loved a Rogue One miniseries.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Because I will say that when I first saw the previews for it, I actually thought Rogue One was going to be more like what Solo was. Like, I thought it was going to be a heist movie. I thought it was going to be like there's that shot in the trailer, the very first teaser.
Oh, yeah.
where
Yeah, I saw that
you see
too.
Jyn and she's wearing what ends up being the traffic director's outfit from the Empire. I totally was like, oh, she's stationed on the Death Star while they're building it, and she's trying to get the plans for it. Like
Nope.
that's what I thought was
Yeah,
going to be the
the
plot.
They
of it.
trailer-
shot that on a lunch break
Yeah.
when they were standing near a hallway. When this would be cool, we could put it in the trailer.
Yeah.
Never
the
intended to
trailer
do
Is
had
that-
a bunch of things that weren't in the
What do
movie.
they, well, they reshot like half the movie.
I
but
actually
what
like
do they do when they break you?
I actually like trailers that have scenes that aren't in the movie
too.
because then there's
Yeah.
no spoilers.
Oh,
I'm
but
fine with
then
it.
I
I
end
was
up
sad to
spending-
not have that shot of her like scraping down that like platform and shooting a gun at a TIE Fighter. Like I
I did
actually,
want that,
I kind
yeah.
of hate it because then I spend the whole movie looking for that scene, and then
Yeah.
at the end of it, I'm like, what the fuck?
That's
I
one of the
think
reasons why I
Marvel-
don't watch trailers most of the
I
time.
know. I don't watch
Let's
trailers too.
finish.
I think
Okay,
Marvel. I
okay.
think Marvel has started shooting fake shots for trailers just so Mark
sense.
Ruffalo doesn't accidentally spoil the movie.
Or
Because if
Tom
you watch
Holland.
the trailer for Avengers, there's actually a shot of
Hulk.
the Hulk running across Wakanda,
Yeah.
which is easy to do when you can just CGI a different monster in the
That's
same scene.
it's actually just to throw fanboys off.
Yeah.
Because apparently fanboys
yeah.
were able to start guessing the entirety of movies off their trailers.
Fanboys are assholes. Some of them. Most of them.
At least on the internet, definitely.
Yes.
Sorry.
So that so Lego Batman, you have a really persuasive argument. You really made it sound cool. And then when everybody came at you, your defense was it was supposed to sell toys and it did better than that, which is not I was just like, I was really rooting for you. And then it was sort of like, hey, it's slightly better than a movie that's just about toy selling. So I don't, yeah.
That's
What do
my
you-
honest opinion of the
Yeah,
movie.
I know, but it didn't. It really tanked your argument because and the point about like the character was Barbara Gordon was slightly better than Wild Style. It's like it's slightly better than expectations.
I have
Whereas-
to watch this like movie a lot with the kids, so like I see that all the time. I'm like,
That,
Yeah.
cards
man.
on the table, that would be my review of this movie. Slightly better than expectations.
Full admission, I didn't rewatch it before this, and I forgot that they don't end up together at the end of the movie. Like I totally thought that Barbara and Batman got together at the end.
Yeah,
of the
I don't
movie.
remember either.
forgot that
I
being-
didn't.
It's
remember
not
either
as
one.
bad as the Killing Joke animated movie.
So whereas
I liked
Chronicles of
it,
Riddick was like all my expectations were up here and it just did not meet them. Batman expectations
not on my
were just like
A-game.
really low and it kind of eked a little better than that.
Well, a
That's
little
how
better.
Okay. So obviously, even though I tried really hard to be objective, I got even without that, the most predictable winner is the winner, and it's going to be Rogue
Yeah,
One.
it's a hollow victory because it was like kind
think
of the juggernaut.
we all went
Everyone
into
in the
this knowing
chat
that
was
was
like,
going to win.
I tried.
I
was
know
like,
you did. I
Hang on.
appreciate it.
To
but
be
it's the
fair,
best movie.
I
It's
did
the
try
best
to pitch a different thing, and I was shot down. And so I'm like, fine, I'm gonna take the fucking. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put my Death Star in here. If we're
That
gonna
was-
do it. Like,
my gut instinct was to take Rogue One. I'm like, you know what? I want to take a movie I don't actually enjoy that much and see if I can do it. And that's why I went for Lego Batman.
did.
I
good
will say that
job.
Thank
even
you.
knowing Emily likes Rogue One, I almost thought you were gonna win with the Batman because. Like the argument that I was gonna make was that like while you were talking,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but I'm so tired of angsty sad Batman because that's every Batman now. But then like, and then he fixes himself, and I'm like, shit, that takes away my argument. He's like, yeah, he's playing on the exact thing that's overdone and
Yeah.
solving it. And I was like, oh no, he just took my big argument away. But
I can't defend it beyond what I prepared. So that brings today's battle to a close. Congratulations, Riley.
thank you.
Well done. Let's do a quick round of plugs and get out of here. I will plug, as always, listen to Venture Bros, the Venture Brothers podcast. Comes out every Monday at 10 a.m. We are in season 2 right now. We just recorded last week Escape to the Mummies, I Forget Everything Part 2, and then we did, it's a long fucking title. And then we
that's
did,
gonna be great for SEO.
and then we did 20 minutes or 20 hours, I forget exactly the time, to midnight, and that is arguably one of the best Venture Brothers episodes in its entirety of its run. So be sure to check out those episodes. They were a lot of fun to talk about. Anyone else things to plug?
Can I do one more?
Sure.
Because I know I did 2 at the beginning. Okay. Starting October 13th, I am going to be on a live D&D streaming game that's going to be actually on the D&D Twitch channel.
Awesome.
It's
Oh,
the
nice.
official tie-in game to their launch of the Ravnica, the Guilds of Ravnica book, which is basically their combining the Magic the Gathering planes with the Dungeons and Dragons system. And so it's a huge, there's never been a more ambitious crossover event in history. It's
pretty exciting. That's rough.
Yeah. But yeah, so
I look
it's
forward to all the art.
yeah, it's gonna be really cool, and I'm really excited about it. And yeah, so we're starting that up. And it's called The Broken Pact, and it's DM'd by a friend of mine from comedy back in Ohio, Ruben Bressler, who's a huge like Magic personality on the internet apparently. And yeah, so I'm gonna be playing in that.
You should get Vin Diesel on it. He's a big D&D
Oh my
guy.
god, I would love to get Joe Manganiello in
Yeah.
there.
When I
There,
Brian asked me what I thought Riddick was in D&D, and I said, "Oh, he's totally chaotic neutral." And then Brian actually looked up something from Vin Diesel online, and that he said the exact same thing. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
I can see that.
the DM for Vin Diesel's D&D Diesel or whatever, they had to make Matt Mercer had to make a class for it. This witch hunter, kind of like blood hunter thing, and
Played a witch hunter.
Yeah,
Ah.
that's why he did
Vin
it.
Diesel with
to this.
really weird dreads.
But like that same class got revised and used in the current run of Critical Role, at least.
Oh nice.
At least until recently. But yeah, it was really cool to see that translation. Like, there's a whole community of people who are just like building these materials on DM's Guild and all that stuff.
I just want to see him do more nerdy stuff. I know he's such a geek. Like, go be in geeky things. Like, I love.
Oh,
Fast
he
and
tried.
Furious,
That's what Chronicles of Riddick was.
That's true.
I think now is the perfect time to
He's a geek
come
who wants
back
to
for
be
it.
the ultimate macho man.
Yeah.
Anything else to plug before we finish this?
I'm so booked out through Halloween.
Emily does not
Emily
play.
is
Does
busy.
not sew. Emily
Yeah.
Blake does not sew right now. Actually, Emily Blake sews a lot, too much. I just bought an embroidery machine, so now I'm adding
Ooh.
that. But I can't. I don't have time right now. But after
Yeah.
Halloween, if you want to commission a costume, hit me up.
Yeah, I will say, as someone who did the prototype of Emily's amazing 13th Doctor costume, she does really good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've now made, I think, 14 of those coats, and yours was the first.
Yes.
Just the other day,
You
someone
should have stopped at 13.
It was the first. It was the first, and maybe the 13th as well, because you made me two.
Yeah,
of
I
them.
made you another.
I'm turning into Batman, where I'm going to have a whole closet full of 13th Doctor
Nice.
coats,
Nice.
and 2 of them are Emily's. And actually, 3 of them,
Three.
because Emily actually also made me my own commission one, which was I wanted her to make me Peter Capaldi's torn up velvet coat,
Oh, nice,
so I could
nice.
go as the
Yeah.
regenerated 13th Doctor.
Nice.
I actually had somebody the other day contact me to ask if I could sell that pattern, and I was like, I don't. That's not.
Never sell your patterns.
Yeah.
Copyright that.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
Do that when you already
litigate.
have a lot of money.
One more plug, and then we need to end this.
Superstore is airing soon after this episode comes out. So please support me and our financial standings, and just a great ensemble cast starring America Ferrera and I'm forgetting everyone else's names right now. Again, I'm not on my game today, so
Nico Santos.
yes.
All right. We say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.